is starting in 3, 2, 1.
And welcome to Checkpoint Podcast with a special bathroom edition. My name is Christian in Brian's bathroom. I'm here with Brian, Fireskull, Justin, and 2 special guests. Can you please introduce yourselves?
My name is Daniel, and I am definitely an avid gamer, otaku, and all other kinds of fun stuff.
Are you sure?
Your final answer.
Test.
Alright, and then my name is Andrew. I am pretty much an avid gamer, and I am a big lore fan, so woo!
Awesome. So we're usually talk about game stuff, so you guys are suited for that. But we brought you in mostly to talk about the big announcement this week, which was Borderlands 3. And there was a bit of a debacle. I actually am not quite too informed. Does anyone here want to explain what happened?
Sure, I'd be down to go for it. So, the biggest thing about the game, which it's incredibly anticipated game, the last numbered one came out 7 years ago. So a lot of people have been looking forward to it. When they announced the actual release date, people were excited that it will be coming out this year, since a lot of times companies will announce games too early. So a lot of hype, but a big issue for a lot of people is the fact that company Gearbox, or parent company 2K, basically decided to deal with Epic Games, who own the engine that they use to make the game, where the Epic Games Store will exclusively sell the game on PC until April of next year, so 6 months. So that's definitely ticked off a lot of PC players for a multitude of reasons. One is so many people have issues with the Epic Games Store and its own multitude of problems, such as no achievements, issues with cloud saves, people having a lot of uncertainties about security in terms of your information.
You can't see the number of hours other people play their games.
There's a lot of quality of life issues with the store, and it's a very especially originally it was incredibly bare bones. They're slowly adding stuff, but there's still a lot of problems with it, as well as just the fact that a lot of people have just hated the fact that every company has their own launcher. To me, that's not a huge big deal. I kind of got used to the idea that I have my Battle.net, my Uplay, my Origin, my Steam. But to me, that whole thing just has too many issues for me to have any interest in supporting it, at least for the near future. So the thing that makes me sad is, if I want to play it on PC, I'll have to wait till next year, but I want to play the game. So I already made an agreement with several of my friends, and we are going to play it on PlayStation, and then buy it on Steam to play it on PC next year.
But here's my question.
Yeah.
If I may interject. So you do not have to wait until next year to play it on PC. Like, you could play it on the Epic launcher. I mean, I know you have gripes against it, but you could play it on the Epic launcher. If
I could.
like the game that
I know some of my friends absolutely won't, and that helps lead into part of the issue. Like, one of the issues for one of my friends is the thing about security of your personal information. He's incredibly paranoid about that sort of thing, so he greatly limits himself in terms of things that he signs up for that reason. So, and when he found out about the issues with the store and possible selling of information, that basically just completely threw him off to it. And one of the things that is great about playing the game on PC specifically is mods. There's a mod that came out not too long ago called the Reborn pack for Borderlands 2. That basically just revitalizes a lot of stuff for the games. It changes a lot of the higher end weapons. Changes their how frequently they drop, various things about them, a lot of quality of life changes, and if you're a person who played through Borderlands 2, the regular version many years ago, and then came back again to play this one, it's like a breath of fresh air with everything that it provides. It gives a lot of the new things that the pre-sequel added, but with all the actual fun story-driven aspects of 2. But here's the issue. You can't run mods on the Epic Games Store.
Not at all.
You can through
Not
Steam.
At all. Oh.
No.
There's basically no
mod
plugin
support
for it.
Oh shoot.
Right.
And that's part of the issue when it comes to actual abilities to perform as a community, because this was entirely just community driven, this
the mod
and project. So the fact that you can't do anything with that for 6 months because it'll be Epic Games Store exclusive is very disheartening. It's like being able to do Skyrim without any of the mods. Okay, maybe not that crazy because that's a whole other thing, but it definitely again takes another aspect that's enjoyable about the game.
Is this the first game that's made you actually move away? Like, you, I don't know if there's like a game you decide to agree to play through the Epic Store, or is it the first one that really pushed you to the edge? Like, find a workaround, essentially playing on a console until it's available.
Yeah, it was definitely the first one to push me that far back. The only time I looked at the Epic Games Store and thought about getting a game was the newest Metro game, because I played the previous 2 on Steam and absolutely love them.
Oh, so you're a Metro
So this
fan,
game
okay.
I definitely thought about, but with my library the way it is, I'm like, I don't want to like set a whole thing up for the Epic Store just to play this one game. So maybe if more stuff comes down the line, I'll consider it. But when I thought that at the time, I really didn't know too much about the store. So it wasn't until more of those clues started popping out that I would hear more and more about people's gripes and complaints and overall analysis of the store and how it's, like I said, it's very bare bones. Like, Steam was too originally, but it had years to kind of like, develop itself, do things here and there. It's not perfect, by any means, but it's definitely the best thing out there, hence why it's as big as it is. Mm-hmm. And I have no issue with, spreading out from the monopoly, just Steam, but they need to at least try to be as good for the players as Steam is currently.
Can I ask, a scenario? Let's say over the next month, a ton of features were added to make it basically on par to Steam. Mm-hmm. And because I feel like the launcher itself is bare bones, yes, but potentially and most likely will have a lot more features coming in, along with its current selling points, which are cheaper games and
more support to developers too. Yeah,
more support to developers. That is on my end, because I think developers should get a bit more help, at least make more money from their work. I'm always kind of slightly rooting for it to succeed in some way, and I'm, again, with what you said, rooting for moving away from a monopoly and having more diversity between the companies. Would you still be open to actually maybe picking up this game through the Epic Store?
If they made
the thing is, I never fully close myself off to the idea of something. I don't look at the store and think to myself, I will never support this. But it's more with the way it currently is. I do not see myself moving to it. Now, if a lot of changes do happen, and I think about it, I will definitely put it hard in consideration. Part of the issue, again, for me, at least specifically in terms of the exclusive game Borderlands, is the fact that, part of the huge appeal with the game is it's a great co-op game. That doesn't mean you have to play co-op, but you really gains a lot more from the experience by playing it in that manner.
That's one of the reasons I never actually got into the game, any of the Borderlands, because I just played it on my own.
Oh,
the majority of my time, with games, has kind of been single player, which is why I gravitate towards those. I played through parts of the second and pre-sequel, and I had fun with what they were, but I usually just lose interest at some point. I can see like this being. I guess my question is: do you think this is like a huge blow to the community because of one, the Epic Store, but also all these people kind of migrating away from that and either waiting or going and playing through a different mean, like consoles?
There's so many conflicting points when I think about, a lot of the logic and direction with the Epic Games Store and companies' decisions to go with them. You say, there's definitely a lot of benefits to developers when it comes to the Epic Games Store versus Steam because of the way, where it's like, the fee that the store gets for having the game on the platform. Spacing on what that's called. Anyway, so there's definitely clear benefits
that the developers get compared to
on
Steam.
Yeah, whatever. Okay,
wait.
Percentages.
Can I ask a question? Is it gonna be cross-platform? Is it gonna be cross-platform Epic Store to Steam and Steam to Epic Store?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah, that's a big question.
I think that's a good question. I'm gonna look that up.
Considering that it won't be on Steam until next year, I think it's too early.
You know this thing that you're mentioning about community divide? I think if people are going to be purchasing things on the Epic Store and then other people are purchasing things on the Steam Store, that is definitely like a literal community divide.
So it's kind of like a console war. For I guess from the 90s when people are very like...
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting you brought up. I mean...
So just think about it in terms of like our group. I'm sure there's like a few people who really, really want to jump on Borderlands 3 instantly, like as soon as possible. So they might purchase it on the Epic Store. But some people like me, I think I'd be fine waiting another 6 months for Borderlands 3 to release on something like Steam, just for the sake of Steam's convenience and also privacy issues. So like if someone buys it on Epic Store, I wouldn't be able to play with them on the Epic Store if I'm playing on Steam. And that's a pain in the ass.
What I think is interesting is like, I wonder even after, let's just say the guy always brings up the scenario that Epic Store does get patched up and is on par. I feel like there's such a negative emotion tied to it that even after it's basically a second Steam, it's still going to be somewhat like have a negative view towards it because of all of this, this rough first year launch, I guess, where everybody just has these negative feelings that the store snatched their games from them. I don't know. I wonder how. I do like the idea of it being its own thing. I just wish that it didn't basically get all this coverage by pissing people off.
I think the biggest issue for people with the stores in terms of general backlash, because every time there's been a new launcher, there's always been people having issues with it, at least in recent time, because a lot of people just don't like the idea of needing to download another launcher, set up another account just so they can play the games they want.
Hashtag problems.
I know, it's really dumb, but to be fair, especially PC gamers are not known for
they don't like change.
I was going to say known for going the extra mile to do what they normally do.
I will not deny
to me, the biggest issues in when a company creates a launcher and then has its game only be able to be played solely through that launcher or purchased solely through that launcher. I think that to me is something that bothers a lot of people because it leads to a lot of inconsistencies with what they're playing.
These guys start talking, so you don't have to hear any of this.
Justin?
Wait, what's up, Justin?
You okay?
I'm on a separate call right now.
Oh.
So I'm on 2 calls at once.
Oh god, he's on.
So I told them that I'd be meeting it on their side so that they wouldn't have to hear the podcast stuff because I'm on speakers on both sides.
Oh,
it's okay.
Yeah.
I guess I feel like we're kind of going around circles. Because you guys are fans, is there anything from like the reveal or the idea of a new Borderlands that really is actually like gets you excited? Like, I'm not a fan, so I want to vicariously live through you guys.
Right. No, there's a lot of things from what I've seen with just what they showed and a few little bits of information that they shared.
Guns.
I mean, yeah. The fact that
is that like a pet? Or is it like a gun?
So it's a brand of gun, and
sure.
each individual brand in Borderlands has its own unique characteristic. So that's a TDORA gun, and I think TDORA guns used to be if you reloaded it, instead of reloading a magazine and putting another magazine inside, you would literally throw your entire gun.
Oh, I remember those guns.
Yeah, and then you would like spawn a new one, and the explosion does damage. And based off of how many bullets you threw inside of your gun, you would actually do more damage. So if you shot one bullet and reloaded, it would do a lot of fucking damage. And I think the walking gun is TDORA now, so they changed it.
They changed all of the ones, actually. I need to find where I saw the information on that, but they did announce a little bit of information about what is unique about each of the gun manufacturers now.
Are we getting
but that's part of the fun.
More lore, guys, more lore.
Not 100% sure. I need to see. A lot of this was from them posting stuff on the site, as well as people nitpicking things from the trailers that we got. But to me, I loved all the previous games and the fact that they're sticking to basically the same formula, but basically guessing how can we step it up a little bit from that gets me incredibly excited, because honestly, why fix what isn't broken? Borderlands is the shooter.
One thing that really got me curious is the fact that they have people from the Telltale game inside of number 3.
Yeah,
I think a character. Yeah. I think that's. I think there's the fact that they put a lot of attention to their story, even though they probably don't have to, is always a fun reward. It makes me kind of want to try and invest into the game.
There's a lot of actually interesting stuff lore-wise with the game that they build off of very slowly. Like the city they show in the trailer. That it's a cool, neon-y, futuristic city. Yeah. That place has been, or at least the planet supposed to be on, has been referenced a lot previously in the game. So for a lot of people who are more into that aspect, it's very exciting. Just the fact that we're going to be in other places besides Pandora, where the game originally took place, is so great for a lot of people, because as fun as the place is, there's only so many times you can see the same desert, etc. Before
you're not interested about the moon anymore.
again, it's interesting, but I'm curious to see how they're going to change a lot of the interactions with people when they go to other planets. If they end up having the same sort of punky feel that they do with bandits in Pandora, then I feel like that's going to be a little bit of a letdown. In the sense that I want to, every time I go to one of these different planets, feel like there's something different about it. Which I think they'll definitely be able to. When it comes to writing, they do a great job, especially with dialogue. So I think I'm excited for is, if I look at the way they built off of from Borderlands 2 to the pre-sequel, they invested a lot in character interaction dialogues. Where in the pre-sequel, you would have, as you're just playing the game randomly, interactions between the characters. If, let's say, you're playing co-op, that would be different depending on what characters and what number of characters were all together. So it made the characters you're playing feel more multi-dimensional than in 1 and 2, where you really don't get a whole lot from them until they become an NPC in the next game. It's kind of the fact. So
I want to go back to the thing you mentioned earlier about the aesthetic, the punky thing. I guess part of me feels because it seems so close to that, it feels a little dated. Like, oh yeah, this is like 2012 or 2009. I remember that. I was like in high school. I don't remember. Yeah, I guess that was like a bit of a turn off from my end. I'm like, oh, it's like cool, more Borderlands. But I was like, it's more Borderlands. So what? But I didn't know it was a new planet, so that's a really cool opportunity. Also, it's been 7 years, so we've had other post-apocalyptic weird-ass looter shooters out there. Like
Destiny.
Destiny, yeah. Do you think there's like stuff that they take or learn from like those games?
There definitely is, but I wouldn't like it if they tried too hard to mimic certain characteristics of those other games. Because I want it definitely to be better in terms of gameplay mechanics and quality of life aspects, but I don't want it to seem like they're veering too far from what it is they are. Because the thing that's going to make the game do well, both in terms of sales and just people's impressions, is that it does what makes it special, makes it unique. And definitely look at the others for certain places where it can improve itself. But I wouldn't like it if it became very cover running like Division can be.
Please.
Please. Yeah. Because that's not what the game's.
Yeah, exactly.
The
Borderlands
stuff
is its
Division
own
work
thing.
great.
Yeah, Borderlands is its own looter
it has its own flavor.
Mm-hmm.
It's its own flavor. You can't have other games mash into it. It'll just make it something else, and probably people will want that.
But if it improved its mobility of its characters and what you can do with the world around you, like let's say a game like Destiny has done through its iterations, then I would be absolutely for that. If I can get from point A to point B in a faster and cooler way, hell yeah, I will be all for that.
I think Destiny's done a really good job at having like mixes of PvP, PvE side things. I know the Gauntlet was like the last big expansion they had, right?
You mean Gambit?
The Gambit, yeah. Like stuff like that, I think would be kind of cool to see within like the Borderlands universe. Not to mention because everything's so wacky.
Yeah.
I remember like one of my I haven't played the game, but seeing things like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like done as like NPCs in the world.
That was a cool mission. I like that side mission.
Yeah, like all those little touches and cares are like all that stuff is to me like I can see this as an opportunity to actually get in when that stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew, is there anything you're looking forward to in the next game?
Well, most of mine. Well, to be honest, I haven't played Borderlands in such a long time that I need to refresh my lore on it. To be honest, but definitely like the new story, the fact that there's going to be a new planet, a new location, new characters. I definitely look forward to see how the story expands on itself, because there's way much more to the universe than there is just Pandora. So that's pretty much the focus of what I want to see in Borderlands 3. But for the time being, I don't think there's much information from the trailers for me to really grasp on until we get more information.
Cool. I guess
I know one of the big quality of life updates they're going to have for this game. That was significant to me because this would be sometimes a problem I ran into in the previous games, and that is the way loot drops work.
I heard they changed that, didn't they?
Yes.
What's the problem you have? I'm curious, actually. I like the Borderlands loot
the way
drop.
the current games work is, let's say you take down an enemy or a boss, and there's a bunch of loot that drops.
Yeah.
If you are playing with, let's say, 3 other friends, full co-op, and you go in, and let's say there's one like incredibly rare weapon among all of them. Basically, you as a group have to decide who is getting that gun. And I generally have been able to work that out, but I won't deny that it can definitely create issues just in terms of not like necessarily issues with your friends, but more it takes time. All right, you have to decide with each other who's getting something. Yeah, so it messes the flow at any time good loot drops. So it's generally, at least for me, like would have its problems. And with this new one, supposedly, the way it's going to work is every character or every player in a co-op game will have their own loot drop, same as it is in other looter shooters currently. So I enjoy that just because it's a lot faster. You can just run over, grab all your loot, and then later on decide what do I want, what am I not keeping. So that to me, just for being able to speed through a lot of those parts of the game is very makes me happy.
So this is confirmed that that's what they're doing, or is that what you hope that they're doing?
I think I heard that it is confirmed.
No, that is confirmed.
It's confirmed.
Interesting.
Cool. Do you have any other last topics you guys want to go into with Borderlands? I feel like we've talked a lot, all the good and bad. Or we can move on to the next thing, like next topic.
I kind of want to ask Jay Cho's opinion, because I know Jay Cho is also a big Borderlands fan, right?
Yes. That's
God,
correct.
you guys are about to just skip over Justin.
I'm sorry,
How
Justin.
can you?
Oh, wait. What was the question again?
What are you looking forward to in Borderlands 3?
Okay, say that again?
What are you looking forward to in Borderlands 3?
Oh, I mean, besides walking guns, I mean, I watched the trailer. Honestly, it has like a few teasers, but that's literally what it is right now. It's just a teaser. So, like, I always reserve judgment until I actually see the final product. But I wouldn't mind if it was literally just a Borderlands 2 clone set in a different setting with new characters. Like, I honestly don't care if it didn't have any new content. It's pretty interesting as is, and I think it would hold up by itself. I don't want them to do a drastic overhaul like some games do.
You don't want it to be a dating sim?
Yeah, I kind of want it to be like a Division 1 to Division 2 kind of thing, where it's like they take the elements that were good in Division 1, they work on those, and they add a lot of quality of life changes that make it super smooth to play compared to the first one, and they fix a lot of the major issues that Division 1 had.
Yeah,
That's what
And it sounds like they're already doing that.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I'm hoping that's the way they go. And I know they're going to have a gameplay reveal event in less than a month on May 1st. So that I'd like to see how they change the way you level up and customize your character. Not that I have any like large issues with the skill tree system they had in previous games.
Yes,
But I'm just curious. I'm just curious to see what they might come up with to
Freshen things up.
elevate. Not even freshen, but just elevate the gameplay and the overall power fantasy of it more. Because these characters, as much as they kind of finish certain roles as previous games did, it definitely seems like they, for at least some of them, in terms of power system so far, definitely putting it up a notch. Like, they decided to combine a Siren and a Berserker, which are normally two separate classes, and made a Siren Zerker out of it. I'm like, that is awesome. And then, they, instead of having the soldier that normally just has like a turret, they now have a person that just summons a giant mech that you can go inside of, and then your ally can go on top of it and fire a minigun. Like, that's pretty great. Like,
cool.
They took those ideas and basically are just throwing it up a notch.
I feel like it's been long enough since they've had any Borderlands. Like, it's all this stuff is hitting harder because everybody's a bit hungry for it.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. People definitely are. The fact that people are still, so excited about Borderlands this many years later definitely makes me happy. One thing I will say I am, not really worried about, but definitely, like, I don't want to jump to any conclusions in terms of bad or good, but it's something I'm watching out for, and that has to do with the villains, the antagonists, for which they showcased in the trailers that they showed. And my reasoning behind that is basically, if you played Borderlands 2 or the pre-sequel, probably the most out there and well-known character from that is the main villain, Handsome Jack. And people people could say whatever sort of issues they have with the character, whatever flaws in logic, but he was just a funny and interesting character.
He was my favorite villain of all time, so I love him.
Even in Tales of the Borderlands, as soon as he comes on, he like freaking steals the show. So my issue is them trying to, obviously I don't want another handsome Jack as the villain. Make it something different, but I'm definitely worried that they won't be able to replicate that same sort of interesting, memorable villain as they did in 2. Like when you think of Borderlands 1, no one really thinks back to the main antagonist from that one.
Who was it? I actually don't know.
Technically, it was a siren, although you never see her powers. She basically was a commander for
so like generic military bad guy number 55.
Basically, the whole thing was so just unmemorable. Even it's not really a spoiler considering Borderlands 1 came out 2009, but the final boss fight is her opening the portal for the vault that's supposed to have treasure. Instead, a giant monster called the Destroyer comes in and kills her, and then that's your final boss. And that boss also was a letdown, but that's a completely different thing. But the point is like, when you think of the great thing about Borderlands 1, you don't think to yourself, man, what a great, memorable villain. What's her face? Borderlands 2, people always will gravitate to Handsome Jack, because that was like the big selling point. Yeah, because he's just he's that easy to use, because he's so easy to hate, but also enjoy listening to.
Yes, completely agree.
So I want to see what they do with these villains. I'm sure they'll be able to do something interesting just from what we've seen. There definitely seem to be interesting aspects, but I don't want them to try too hard to make another Handsome Jack. But I also don't want another Borderlands 1.
I think, I would say from like the reputation I hear and how well they write their protagonists, I think that people should be excited. Yeah,
I don't want, as I said before, I don't want to like have my expectations too high or too low because of that. But it's definitely something that if anything is going to fall flat in the game, I think that's what can.
To be fair, I personally, here's just my personal take on it. I feel that the worst that they could do is to actually default back to Handsome Jack. Maybe introduce these new villains, but then make it so that Handsome Jack is still the main bad guy behind him. I feel like that would probably be the worst that they could do.
That would probably be the worst.
Yeah. That's gonna be basically the lowest point, because they're not gonna.
Exactly.
If they can't make anyone equal to Handsome Jack, they might as well just default back, because then at least they'll draw.
Then people are gonna feel even more like they're just.
They could not.
Playing 2 again.
Yeah, they could not one up their old villain essentially.
They gotta go a different direction. They just can't copy it.
Well, right, but then,
sounds like they're doing that.
The worst case scenario, it basically is him, right?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. They should do something different to not go into that scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. No, sorry. I thought we were on agreement on that.
Oh yeah. I thought that for some reason we were fighting, but we're not. We're friends.
Oh no, we're not. Yeah, I was kind of agreeing with you. I'm disagreeing with you. Yeah, because there's no way you can have any villain below Handsome Jack, because if you do, then that just ruins everything. There's just no way they'll ever let that happen.
Right. But I do feel that, if they do end up making a villain that is unfortunately below Handsome Jack, I do hope that they stick with it rather than default back to Handsome Jack when they realize, oh, this villain cannot match up to him.
True. I wouldn't mind if they threw in something about Handsome Jack in it. Like, he had tons of body doubles. One of the playable characters was Timothy the Doppelganger.
Oh my god, I love that.
Who to this day we don't know what happened to him. So there's lots of ways you can bring some aspect of Handsome Jack, or at least his voice actor, to do some lines, whether it be through recordings, another version of his AI. I wouldn't want it to be a big focus, but I wouldn't mind playing a side mission or two that shows this.
Yeah,
Just like the fun and nostalgia aspect of it. I would definitely not be thrilled if he ended up having a large role in the game.
I agree, completely agree. Yeah, it's just,
Besides, you gotta love those cameos.
Yeah, we can always have like just a little bit of Handsome Jack in there. That's gonna keep players in, as long as we don't make him the main villain again.
A DLC skin.
That'd be nice. Yeah, that'd be nice.
All right, I think we've done a lot of. I mean, what game were we talking about?
Borderlands
3. I don't know. I just blanked.
No, we're playing Destiny. We're playing Destiny. Yeah.
It might be the same thing. But I actually want to bring up a different game or a different problem people have been having. You guys have Sekiro? Sekiro? Well, people have been complaining or bringing up the idea that it's a bit of a hard game. I mean, it's from the Soulsborne people from Software. And there's been kind of this discussion coming out about giving it an easy mode. And they're like, what else does that mean from it? I want to know what you guys are talking about. I have my own thoughts, but do you guys think like hard games from like like Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro should like have an easy mode, or like should difficulty be a thing that we eliminate from the game?
Ooh, okay, no, I have a lot to say about that. Okay, so first and foremost, we need difficulties in games just because everyone enjoys games differently. You can't just make a game super easy where everyone always wins, because then there's really no challenge to it. There's always a bunch of people who are into just playing video games for the sole purpose of wanting to make it hard so they can rethink their strategy, try to figure out better ways to kill the boss, make it more efficient, and overall just have fun. But in defense to having an easy mode, I feel that there should be an easy mode solely for people who are only interested in other aspects of the game rather than the actual gameplay, which, to be honest, does sound a bit like a foreign concept.
I think as a lot of us maybe are core gamers, we've done this for years, and the culture of it is something we're embedded in. It's like a crazy idea, but I know what you're talking about. Having parts of it available to people who have barriers or limitations.
Right. And actually, the one thing I kind of do enjoy if an easy mode is given to games is just the fact that if for me, since I'm really big into more of like the storyline, because I of course enjoy playing video games. I love playing on hard mode. I am a completionist myself, so I do like playing at the hardest level possible, right? But I also realize I have a huge backlog of games I really want to play. Dark Souls 3 being one of them. I haven't even started that, even though I have that in my library, and I really need to start that. So if there was an easy mode for Dark Souls 3, for example, I'd probably be one of the players who played it at the easiest level, just so I can beat all the bosses, explore the world, see what's going on, and then build up my interest from it, just because I like enjoying the story and figuring out what's happening within that game.
Right. Well, actually, specifically of Dark Souls and Bloodborne, there's I guess the main director of this project really wants to actually. I'm trying to talk about like difficulty in games and like its place in it. And with him, he sees difficulty as like part of the experience, and a lot of people want to highlight how there's a growth with these games that the players go through. They stay persistent and they challenge themselves, and they come out the other end having learned something from that experience of struggling until you get it. Is it like what do you think? Like what else could be lost? Like if something like that, if we remove difficulty, or if there's should we really put a value in that over other people coming into a new experience, a new game?
Oh, you're pretty much putting this in as a one choice or another choice, right? So there will be difficulty or there will not be difficulty. Is that correct?
I'm just like bringing in a scenario where if difficulty helps part of the experience, where like that is like designed to be the core way a person should experience a game.
The question is if it takes away from the experience.
Like, yeah, if we make it easy and that entire difficulty is removed, or I think I have my own solution to that scenario. But what are your thoughts of like just difficulty in games? Is it something that you guys like are attracted to? Is it something that you like consider when you buy something, or is it something like what is your relationship with that?
I want to point out the difference between accessibility for more people and accessibility based on disability. So, making a game more accessible for people who have learning challenges, to me, is very different from just making it appeal to more of the masses. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I don't necessarily look for difficulty. I just look for a game that is fun, and if it ramps up a challenging level, then that is one way I can enjoy it. I don't think you have to appeal to the people who want an easier game, and I don't think you need difficulty in every game that is published.
I like the fact that you referenced, game developer and their opinion on, how challenge is for them in terms of, making a game. Because I feel if you are a game developer or director or whatever, and you have a vision for a game, that part of that vision is that ramp up of difficulty, and you believe that to be part of the overall experience, then I don't think you should at least be forced to add an easier mode just for the sake of appealing to, or possibly appealing to, a larger audience. Because I feel like at that point you are tarnishing your own vision a bit.
I agree.
I feel like if it doesn't mess with that vision and intention with your game, then I think it's great to have a variability of options for players coming into a game. Like for me, I definitely, at least when I'm playing a game for the first time, if it's a game I haven't played before, I'll generally play it at like the normal difficulty setting, and then on a next playthrough, we'll go for one of the higher difficulty settings. And if I really liked it, maybe the highest. With the only exception being games I'm familiar with, so like a sequel to a game I played before. At that point, I might just go into one of the harder settings right off the bat.
So if we take all this discussion and kind of look at it the way that, the current buzz about the Sekiro article has it right now, what do you guys feel about the idea that, the player makes the game easier on their own, which is what this guy did by cheating on Sekiro and made the game easier for himself to finish the game? What are your thoughts?
See, to me, that's totally okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that would be his experience with the game. So to me, I guess it is acceptable since he is not really tarnishing it for other people. It's more
the complete creative work. If he chooses to change it after that, that's not the developer's responsibility.
Right. I mean, for the most part, think of it this way: if he wants to play it his way and feel like, and he's basically making himself feel like this really great badass who knows how to kill all the enemies and be done with the game and feel great about it, then I'm all for it. That's his way of playing because that's how he enjoys the game.
Yeah, especially so it's fine.
Okay, wait.
Like that, and it's also fine to change it like that as the consumer.
Yeah.
You know what I think is despicable about this particular thing?
What's
the
up?
fact that he wrote an article about it, saying bragging about it as if it was some sort of achievement. And I don't think this is journalism.
Yeah,
I think he can do whatever the fuck he wants and play the game with cheats, but I don't think he should be writing on a somewhat legitimate journalism site,
Well, wait.
We all know not to give him any credibility now.
Yeah.
No, well, okay, hold on. Well, again, if this is him basically saying that the game's easy and I beat it easily and he didn't acknowledge the fact he cheated, then that's a whole entire different story. But at this point,
Do you think acknowledging cheating
the whole point
diminishes the fact?
Yeah, the whole point
Individual?
was highlighting it and using it as a platform.
Well, I mean, okay, hold on.
I mean, clickbait, man.
Yeah, clickbait, that's true. But my point is, I guess, yes, you're right, he shouldn't have written an article about it just because it's seemingly obnoxious, but it's just the way he plays, so I guess for me it's more of a let it be situation. I'm actually, to be honest, I don't know how I feel about this anymore.
For me, my general issue with cheating stems to, at least in gaming, stems from the idea that, in the end, you're mostly cheating yourself out of a possibly enjoyable experience, by lessening it through those sort of actions. So if you, like I say, if you enjoy it that way, sure, but he's definitely missing out on a large aspect of what is supposed to make the game fun for other people.
Right.
So I feel like at that point it's hard for him to say he fully connects with, let's say, other players, because he took out such a major thing from it.
So what about the ice aspect? Okay, and this is from me talking to another Dark Souls friend of mine who's very, very much a huge lover of the Soulsborne series. He says that, so, he feels that Sekiro as a game is kind of like an art piece, an art piece that From Software made and that they put all their work into. And what this guy is doing by cheating on it, by writing an article about how he cheated on it, we feel that he is essentially tarnishing this art piece. He's disrespecting the art piece that From Software kind of made. In a similar way where, like if you get, I don't know, like a fine steak made by Jeff Ramsey, and then when you get it, you just pour mayonnaise all over it, just drown in mayo, and then you just take photos, and you're just like, hey, look at this great steak that Jeff Ramsey made, I fucking put mayo on it, and you know what, I loved it. I love eating this with mayo.
Okay. If we're comparing this have done this throughout the ages, especially since if you take any famous piece and basically make it something else, it's been done before so many times.
Yeah, and do you feel that that is acceptable because that's the way that the consumer is enjoying their product, and they just want to let the world know that, hey, this is the way I enjoy my product. What do you guys feel?
Well, by that definition, that just means that every time I go to a restaurant and I basically add more salt to my meal because I don't think it's salty enough, that's basically insulting. It's
right.
It's kind of a really gray area.
No, that's not the same thing. We're getting a little off topic, but the way that works with culinary stuff is different. It would be, if, let's say you went to a sushi place where they said, don't dip this in soy sauce, and you do. That would be considered insulting to the chef's vision. But generally, when you are given condiments, with it, that's because, certain tastes means you need to make a few changes to it for your own.
I think the idea of taste is...
but that's the thing. You have to modify it to your personal liking. I mean... Yes, it's the most respectable way to enjoy any video game is to play it as it is intended, right? So no cheats, no modifications, no nothing. But for some people who like the fact that modifications are there for to make it more enjoyable for them, I don't see it as a... Oh, okay, I can see how it is disrespectful to the main game developer, but it should be taken as a full-on insult.
Yeah, I agree, and I actually like that. What example that B-Chan mentioned, I actually think that's. I want to go further into that and say I do like the idea of easy mode, but mostly in terms of accessibility. If you guys have played the Uncharted games, they actually have a lot of accessibility changes to help people who may not be able to press things around, or they can't they get fatigued by pressing buttons because of physical limitations. I think that, again, if you have a finely cooked steak, and if you have a way of making it easier for someone to intake that experience and get close to what that is a great example of how, where easy modes or cheats or mods should be applied to a project to let other people experience.
But at the same time, remember, in the Uncharted series, the whole accessibility thing, that is something that the developer put in there themselves. That is them creating the game and adding these accessibility options in there, knowing that, okay, I know how these accessibility options are gonna affect the game and the experience for the player. But then, what about when the player introduces external things to their experience?
Modding community.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, modding community, exactly. Well, by all accounts, you're still making a wonderful product, and they should definitely be proud about the product they made. Even though they may be disappointed by the fact that some people chose modifications, it shouldn't be a complete and utter insult / disrespect to the original maker, just solely because they are still enjoying the game. It's just that these little modifications make it even more enjoyable for them.
But it's different from the original intent.
Some people like McDonald's for everything. It's the best shit in the world for some people, and that's fine. I think maybe we need to be a little more empathetic. There's people that
because
think differently.
it's hard for me to judge how other people for liking certain things because they like things their own personal way. It's because I can't really just impose, hey, if you're going to eat a hamburger, this is the only way you're going to eat it. If you play this video game, you have to play it like this. You can't modify that. You can't modify this. It just seems very imperialistic.
I think a lot of fan bases just take anything that goes against their beliefs
They
too
accept
personally.
it canon.
No, at this point, it's basically like religion.
Yeah.
I don't know if I always go that way, because I'm not talking about specific about toxicity exactly, just that if something happens involving something you greatly enjoy, people tend to kind of take that a little too personally. Like, again, I think it's one thing if you're the person that made it, because you have a very unique connection with this, in this case, video game. And I think if you do feel insulted, then that's fair for you to feel the way. Now, should you have it affect your life? If something like in the case of Sekiro happened, no. But I think you definitely at least deserve the right to not be happy about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, actually, we're near the end of time, guys. I'm sorry. I wanted to spend more time here, but I think that's a good end up. Well,
That's the joy of episodic series.
Wait, what?
I said that's part of the joy of episodic series.
Oh God.
You gotta leave their little meat on them. as we sort of go back to our food. Jeez.
Oh shit. Alright guys, this has been Checkpoint Podcast. Thank you to the special guests, Dan, Andrew, I'm Christian, we have Brian, Fire Skull, Justin. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Alright.
We're clear? Nice.
You can take off your clothes now.
You're free to continue.
What if they were already
Bold of you to assume that people wear clothes in their homes.